Hey everyone, good evening. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm Megan Reckling. I am so excited to talk to you guys tonight about redistricting. I'm going to let everyone kind of start to hop on. I'm hoping we have a decent amount of people on tonight. And I am going to make sure, since I am doing this differently tonight, that I can see your comments as people are making them. So we're going to let a few people tune in tonight. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me okay. We are going to be talking about our new Redistricting Commission that was passed. All right. Drop me a note as you guys get on. Tell me hi. Let me know where you guys are all from watching tonight. I had made a post earlier that this is not about just Livingston County. This is something that is going to affect all areas of Michigan, from our lower Ohio border all the way up to the Upper Peninsula. And so I would love to know where you guys are all from. Please share this video and let me know. Invite your friends to watch so we can get more people involved. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started as people are hopping on here. So let's just start off with a couple of things. So back in 2018, we had 3 ballot proposals that were on the ballot. We had Proposal 1, which related to marijuana. We had Proposal 2, which was related to the Independent Redistricting Commission. And we had Proposal 3, which was Promote the Vote. And I did a video a couple of weeks ago related to Proposal 3 and Promote the Vote. So now, as I kind of said in my post earlier today, besides election reform, I think that redistricting on the state, federal, and local levels is probably one of the most important things that we should be spending the next 10 to 12 months focused on. How our lines are redistricted are going to impact the type of elected officials that we have the opportunity to see representing us on every level of government. And these are going to be lines that kind of dictate what is the direction of our state going to head the next 10 to 20 years. Because like it or not, if we end up with a lot of liberal lines and we end up with a decade of all Democrat control, we are probably never going to come back from that. So working through the process to ensure that we end up with fair lines is kind of the goals and objective here. I adamantly opposed the Redistricting Commission, Proposal 2, when it was on the ballot back in 2018. But the fact of the matter is that the voters adopted this ballot proposal. 61% of Michigan residents supported and passed in favor of Proposal 2. So, may not like it, may be upset that this is what we have to work with, but this is the rules of the game. And we can either play the rules of the game, or we can sit by and kind of say, it's going to be a liberal redistricting commission, we're going to get screwed, and it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy of we're going to get screwed. So let's walk through a few of the details. Proposal 3 or Proposal 2, let me give you a few caveats. 1, I am not an attorney. I don't even pretend to be an attorney. I don't play one on TV. So just know that when I am talking about these things, there are legal experts that they spend almost all of their time completely focused on redistricting. So I am just Megan Reckling, chair of the county party. I spend a lot of time studying and learning about these things and being involved in the process. So that gives me some of my unique experience to be able to speak from. So Proposal 2 back in 2018 added Section 6 to our state constitution, which created an independent redistricting committee. And you're going to kind of see me looking around because at one point in here, I'm going to create a PowerPoint that I can kind of help show people, or we can share in order to get this information out to other people. And eventually here, I might try to get around to the tech side to Zooming so that I can screen share and do PowerPoints while we do these things. So Proposal 2 added or created the Independent Redistricting Committee in Section 6 of our state constitution, and it starts with this. An independent Citizens Redistricting Commission for state legislative and congressional districts hereby in, or hereinafter, known as the Commission, is hereby established as a permanent commission in the legislative branch. The commission shall consist of 13 commissioners And the commission shall adopt a redistricting plan for each of the following types of districts: state senate districts, state house of representative districts, and our congressional districts. So this committee is tasked with redistricting our congressional seats, our state house seats, and our state senate seats. They are not tasked with redistricting our local county commission seats. That process is still dictated in state statute, and we at some other point can go through another video that details that process. So our county commission districts are done completely differently than our congressional, our state house, and our state senate seats. And I don't want to confuse the two, so we're going to keep them in two separate different videos here. So tonight we are focused solely on the independent commission that is going to redistrict our federal level seats along with our state house and our state senate. So last year you saw calls to action by a number of organizations and individuals asking for people to apply to serve on this commission. There in the Constitution dictates who gets to apply, who can serve, the requirements for what that looks like. It says things like after you are a commissioner serving on the redistricting commission, you're not allowed to run for office for at least 5 years once you're done, and you can't run for office after on the state, county, village, or even township level. So there's a lot of things that you are not allowed to run for after serving as a commissioner for a number of years. So over 9,000 individuals put in their application. There's a whole process between public postings. Legislative houses get to disqualify a certain number of candidates. And when it was all said and done, there was 13 individuals who were randomly selected to serve on this commission: 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 5 individuals who serve as independents. So 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 5 independents make up the 13 members. As you go throughout the new language in the constitutional requirement, there are 2 specific parts that I want to focus on tonight. And kind of a point of my video is, how can you be involved? How can we impact this process? How can we make sure that the commission remains a fair commission, or an independent commission that gives us fair redistricting lines here in Michigan? So there's 2 specific sections that I want to focus on. First and foremost, Section 8, and then we move into Section 13. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to Section 13, and then we can go back to number 8, or subsection 8 and 13, and we can focus on why these are important. So in the constitutional language, in subsection 13, it actually lists the criteria by which the commission has to draw the lines. So it gives letters A through G for what the commission, in the order of priority that it is listed in the Constitution, what they must consider. So we're going to read through these. Section A: districts shall be of equal population as mandated by the United States Constitution, and they shall comply with the Voting Rights Act and other federal laws. The Federal Voting Rights Act and other laws that impact redistricting are incredibly complicated. I have watched every single meeting related to the Redistricting Commission, and the commissioners are just starting to gather. In fact, this was a topic of discussion at the last meeting, that they kind of all thought they were just going to get to sit down and draw maps, and they're realizing that there's a lot of federal laws that come into play with things like majority-minority districts that don't make it as easy as it sounds. It doesn't, you don't get to just sit down with your crayon and your marker and draw what you think are nice little maps. There's a reason why districts look the way they do, especially when you get into Southeast Michigan, and a lot of that is related to the Federal Voting Rights Act. So the first thing they have to consider is the districts have to be of equal population, and they have to comply with federal law and the Voting Rights Act. So that's all the first priority that the commission has to consider. The second priority that the commission has to consider is districts shall be geographically contiguous. Island areas are to be considered contiguous by the land to the county of which they are attached or are a part of, because islands aren't attached. So districts shall be geographically contiguous. That does not mean perfectly square. That just means that the land has to touch. So District, I'm going to take the 47th district. You couldn't have Fowlerville, which is on the western side of Livingston County, skip over a bunch of stuff, have a space in between it going all the way up and down, and then have Brighton in the same district. The land has to touch. You could go Fowlerville, Howell, Brighton, and do a line through the middle of the district, but you can't put a separation in it and count two areas that are not attached in one district. So that's the second consideration. The third consideration is that districts shall reflect the state's diverse population and communities of interest. Communities of interest may include, but shall not be limited to, populations that share culture or historical characteristics, along with economic interest. Communities of interest do not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. So the third criteria in the order of priority that the commission has to consider is communities of interest. This is the one that I am going to spend the most of the time talking about when we get through the list. The fourth is districts shall not provide a disproportionate advantage to any political party. An advantage to a political party shall be determined using acceptable measures of partisan fairness. There is a standard equation that is used that can help calculate what the R or D percentage of a district is, and it will be that mathematical formula that's kind of widely known and accepted that is used to calculate that out. So the fourth criteria is that no party should have a bigger advantage or disadvantage. Next, districts shall not favor or disfavor an incumbent elected official or candidate. So you're not allowed to take into factor where a candidate lives or where an incumbent lives. The next factor is districts shall reflect consideration for county, city, and township boundaries. And finally, districts shall be reasonably compact. So this is different from what the old law used to be when the legislature drafted the lines. It used to be that districts shall reflect county, city, and township boundaries was significantly higher, and districts must be reasonable compact over things like communities of interest. Now, communities of interest is the third criteria that the commission must use when considering how to draw districts. So what in the heck is communities of interest? And this is where we as the residents of Michigan really get to have an impact on the redistricting process. And this ties into subsection 8. So subsection 8 of the new Independent Redistricting Commission basically says that before the commissioners draft any plans, before they see any lines, they must hold at least 10 public meetings throughout the state in different areas for the public to submit their input. So the purpose of these meetings shall be for the commission to inform the public about redistricting and to solicit information about their potential plans. They are required to take public input at these at least 10 regional meetings that they have to have throughout the state. So here we are, and how do we define communities of interest? It's not defined in the language that we adopted, and I'm just going to get on my little soapbox for a minute. Here is section 6. In this size font, it's about size 10. It's 4 pages. I mean, it's literally a complete 4 pages. This was summarized down to 100 words, and that is what the voters voted on in 2018. So when you go to the ballot box and you see a constitutional amendment before you, what was summarized in 100 words was actually 4 pages of stuff in our state constitution. There is no way that we know. Usually, most people don't go read all this. So if you see an amendment to our state constitution on the ballot box, please be very cautious before voting for them. So, how do we define communities of interest? Frankly, in all of the states who have previously adopted redistricting commissions, communities of interest are not defined. They're not defined in the language that was adopted in the proposal. They're not defined in statute. and other states that have adopted redistricting commission still don't have a good definition for what communities of interest could be. So back in August of 2010, the University of Michigan, working with the Center for Local, State, and Urban Policy, they submitted a report to the commission that made recommendations for what the University of Michigan and the Center for Local, State, and Urban Policy, how they would define communities of interest. I am sure, as you can all imagine, coming out of the University of Michigan, it was the most conservative definition of communities of interest that you could find. But let's be honest, we as the residents and our interest groups and those who are impacted by redistricting are going to get to define communities of interest. Agriculture, homeschooling. We could go through an entire list of different ideas. Pick a social justice category. That's how the Democrats are going to define it. Communities with the LGBTQ, that's how they're going to define it. So we have to define our own communities of interest, and we have to make sure that we are speaking at the call to the public at all of these meetings for what we, as conservative constitutional Republicans, define as community of interest, because the definition doesn't exist. So we get to create the definition. I have studied how states like California, the Secretary of State commonly references California with the redistricting process. They use a lot of advice coming out of California for how they went through this after they adopted an Independent Redistricting Commission. And so this is going to give us a glimmer for how it's going to go here. And the Democrats have a lot of nonpartisan organizations. The League of Women Voters, they like to claim they're nonpartisan. They're not. They are exactly a partisan organization. The NAACP, they are going to have a lot of organizations that help them, the same organizations that commonly sue the Secretary of State to make election law changes, are going to be the ones that encourage their members to attend these meetings with what they define as communities of interest. So we as Republicans can either sit back and complain about the process, or we can go ahead and define our own communities of interest and speak loud and proud at these regional meetings to make our voices known for what we define as community of interest. And then what we can hope out of this is that we are not going to end up with a slated district list from the congressional level to the state house to the state senate that leans Democrat. What we're really trying to object is a bunch of 50-50 districts. If we end up with a bunch of districts where it is 50-50 and we can fight for our lives, we are in great position. What we can't afford is to have a whole litany of Democrat-leaning commission districts that we have no shot in. And so that's basically what we are trying to do here. We are trying to make our voices heard so that the commission knows what we define as communities of interest, to end up with a bunch of districts that are 50-50, that we can have great candidates run in, and we can end up with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and we can hold our own on the congressional delegation. So how can you help? Well, it's going to take a team effort on this. I can't do it alone. It's going to take a lot of people helping to coordinate. Everyone knows that the grassroots is incredibly great when we kind of point people in a direction and aim and shoot. And so here's the deal, guys. We need people to help get involved on how we define the communities of interest. We need people who are willing to attend the meetings. We can help. We are going to help provide information on what communities of interest look like. We would like input from everybody on what you think communities of interest should be. We need help organizing individuals in every county. We need individuals in all 83 counties to take part in this process. I am looking for people who are in each county to kind of serve as a county point person, in addition to working with their county chair in the Republican Party and other leaders among them. We have their senators, we have their state reps who are in the Republican caucus, district chairs, county chairs, and then grassroots leader. This is going to take all of us. I just dropped in the link, and I'm going to put it in the comments later, a link to a Google form. If you can click on the Google form, go there, fill out your name, your address, your phone number, and your email. That is going to help us get started organizing people. This way we can go ahead and figure out what county you're in, In the comment section, if you're willing to kind of serve as a county point person, let me know that. If you have any comments or questions specifically about redistricting, let me know. But I can tell you that this is going to make or break the conservative movement in Michigan if we don't partake, or if we partake in this process. So again, I don't like the Redistricting Commission. I wish we don't have it. But the fact is we do, and we can either play by the rules because the Democrats sure as heck are, or we can sit back and get our tails licked again. And I don't know about you guys, but I am sick and tired of watching Republicans get our tails licked every single time we turn around. So we need to make sure that we have a movement of people who are willing to attend these regional meetings, and we're going to help organize. We are going to help. For some reason, somebody's telling me that the form won't open. So let me see here. Let's see. I don't know if... It's not good for me to check it, guys, because I'm on the admin side. Of course it's going to open for me. Paul, I saw that you're on. Since you have admin rights, if you could go in and just try to see the form and why it won't work, that might be helpful. I'm not sure why it won't work overall. Okay, guys, we'll get the form working, and I'm going to put it in the links. So does anybody have any questions on kind of how the process works, what we have to do to help organize? So these public meetings are going to be held. So normally what happens is the census data is released in February into May and into March. However, there's a delay with the census data this time. So the census data is not going to be released until sometime in June or even potentially July. So the commission is really focused on having these public meetings. They are hoping to have these public meetings sometime between, they said May, June, or July is kind of their target window. And they need the detailed census data. They just don't need the census data. They need the detailed census data. And so then what they intend to do is, oh, well, that's not helpful. Oh. Yep, hang on, guys. I don't know. All right, guys, give me 1 second here. Paul went in and was trying to fill it out for himself, and he ended up telling you guys all of his information. All right. Thanks, guys, for being patient. I appreciate it. All right, let's see, that should work. All right, we're going to try this again. Hopefully when you open it, it doesn't have anyone's info in it. We still love you, Paul. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being patient while we fix that. So they have to wait for the detailed census data, and then they are, they're going to do these public comments. So what I'm working on right now is we're hoping in the next 2 weeks to start collecting the names of those who would be willing to testify. And if you think you're in a community of interest, if you are a farmer, if you have agriculture, if you homeschool, there are all types of, again, we're kind of going to get to define what we think communities of interest look like. Historical, if you have a historical significance to another community right to your east or to your west or to your north. Ethnicity, culture, race, the economy. So it could be manufacturing, it could be industrial, again, it could be agriculture. Religion gets to take into account. Indigenous or immigrant communities, language that's spoken, geographic areas. These are all things that the other side are going to be kind of using for theirs, along with other things that are probably more socially justice based, we can imagine. And so, just kind of start thinking about how you would define a community of interest. What do you think drives you? Where do you think you want to end up in a district? And so that we can, start to formulate those ideas. You can put them in the comments box. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be collecting names. We're going to be trying to find county grassroots individuals to help us when it's time to get these meetings. And as we can start to pull more information in for those who are willing to help us in the next 2 weeks, we're going to start to set up some meetings in person. We'll have some Zoom meetings. We're going to move off Facebook Live and we'll move into Zoom, so we can start to coordinate our volunteers. And then as the meetings start to happen, we know right away who we can start to push out into what meetings and go to testify. You're going to have to be from that area. If I am going up to the Keweenaw Peninsula to testify about a community of interest, I don't have any ground to speak in there. Senator McBroom would, because he lives in the Keweenaw Peninsula, but I wouldn't. So this is really regional based. We need people who live in a certain area to partake in that process. Joni, you had asked me to explain something, but I can't see all of the comments. So can you type back in what you are specifically asking me to explain? Yes, Anna, you can share this video with other individuals. I would appreciate it if you would share the video and the Google link so that people can start to put their information in. Again, this is going to be a really big team effort. We need dozens of people to show up at each one of these meetings to talk about what communities of interest are. And we're going to help them do that. We're not asking you to go in blind. We're not asking you to, figure this out on your own. We're going to help you do that part. We're going to help define, communities of interest. We're going to make sure that you're prepped and prepared and you go into these meetings feeling comfortable about what you're going to talk about. She wanted clarity on KP's comment about Dems wanting to force affordable housing in all areas. Yep, there's no doubt the Dems are going to use this for all kinds of things. They have all types of definitions about what communities of interest look like. So Joni, basically what will happen is we'll have a couple of Zoom meetings organizing everybody. But when push comes to shove, if you want to be someone who walks into a meeting and speaks for public comment, you would probably need to participate in 2 meetings. One, a Zoom meeting to prep yourself to go to the meeting, and then secondly, the public comment meeting. The commission still isn't sure. A lot of the conversation that they had in their meeting last week revolved around, are they going to be able to have these regional meetings in person, or are they going to need to do them remotely? I really hope that they are going to be able to do these in person. It's going to make it much easier. Yes, it's easier for people to Zoom in, but I think they're going to get better genuine input if they have these meetings in person in the region of which they are looking to represent. And let's just be honest, talking to 13 people on a Zoom screen, trying to give them your thoughts about what a community of interest is, it just doesn't come across as great as standing in front of them. So if you are somebody who is just going to participate 2 Zoom meetings, the one, just to kind of teach you what you're going to say, answer any questions that you have, and then the meeting that you actually have to attend. If you're willing to be a county chair to help get out the grassroots, probably a couple more. But again, we're talking a short period of time. This, they have to have the maps done by the fall. And so really the public comment on the communities of interest is going to happen in these 10 meetings that happen before the beginning of August. The statute or the Constitution does require that they have 5 public meetings after the maps are done. So we'll probably do a call to action again once the maps are drawn for people to go speak at those 5 meetings. But for right now, we're really focused on the 10 meetings. Do we and can we only go to meetings for our county or region? Yes, because again, you will be going to speak to what you believe your community is. So I live in Fowlerville, and I believe that a community of interest that I should be partnered with is Williamston or Howell or Cohocton Township, and for these reasons. So really, it's you as a resident where you live and what area you think you should be partnered with. And so me going to Saginaw and saying that the thumb in Saginaw should be connected doesn't really make sense. Are we expected to lose a district? Yes, all of the experts believe that based on our population trends that we will go from 14 to 13 congressional districts. And so I think that ended up, when I saw the number, I'm not even going to try to guess because I've looked at too many numbers tonight. But again, everything has to be equal population. The number one factor is equal population with following the Voting Rights Act and federal laws related to redistricting. But yes, it is predicted that we will lose a congressional seat. Not in the House and not in the Senate. We still have 110 in the House and 38 in the Senate that we have to redistrict. Michelle, so redistricting goes into effect. I will post a link to the timeline that they have. They have to finish the maps by this fall, and they have to have the maps made publicly. I want to kind of add something here because I think this is important. And this is where a lot of people, again, I'm not a big fan of the commission, but here's the deal. There's 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, 5 independents. Out of the 4 Democrats, there are 3 of them that are pretty liberal. I mean, they try to push the progressive, or not even progressive, they try to toe the party line on redistricting. All of the other commissioners actually kind of take their independent status fairly serious. We have done 2 calls to actions related to people that the commission were considering to hire. One was their general counsel, who were not independent. They had made numerous donations to Democrats, and they had worked on the ballot proposal that passed the redistricting commission, so they had a conflict of interest. And we had a number of individuals who submitted emails and helped out, and the commission listened. This commission, so far, has proven that they really, really value public input, and you can move their decisions with public input, which means if the Democrats are the only ones in the room with public input defining communities of interest, what do you think is going to happen? They are going to move the commission with how they define communities of interest. So it is really important. I have watched all of the meetings. Again, I can tell you, they do read and they do respond to public input and public feedback. We have to make sure that we provide that now. The other part that I think is really important to point out is how the maps have to be voted on. So hang on one second, because I think this part is fairly important. The commission shall adopt the plan receiving the highest total of points. And it goes on to say that the plan needs to be voted yes by 2 people who are Republicans, 2 people who are Democrats, and 2 people who are independents. So it can't be all the Democrats and all the Republicans or all the independents who adopt a map. They have to have at least 50% of the Democrats, 50% of the Republicans, and 50% of the independents who are on board with this. I know there's a lot of questions on, are the Republicans Republicans, and are the Democrats Democrats, and are the independents independents. I honestly think this time around, probably, going into the redistricting process in a decade, it's going to be significantly more important that we make sure people who are eligible apply to serve in those positions. There's a lot of criterias that even if you served as a precinct delegate, you're not allowed to run for those if you've been a precinct delegate for so long. And so we need to make sure that we have good people who are Republicans applying for the Republican spots, and independents applying for the independent spots a decade from now. But this time around, I think we were on fairly decent, I think we could have done better, but I think we were on decent footing. Miss Gogaleski, so what do we need to do? Attend the meeting, send an email. So right now, what I need you to do is, if you are willing to speak at a meeting or participate in the process, fill out the Google Doc that I put in the comments. I'll put it in there again. And that is just going to let me know that you're interested. We are going to start formulating a team who is willing to help with this. And so for right now, we are just kind of we're in the kind of the beginning phase, letting people know that this is important, letting them know this is something they can act on. I have so many people who are asking me, what can I do? How can I be involved? I can tell you to become a precinct delegate, but you can't even file for that until a year from now. What can you do today? This is something that, besides election reform, is the most important things that we as constitutional conservative Republicans can focus on in the next 10 months. Because this is going to play a huge deal in 2020 and for the next decade in our state. And so this isn't something that we can do in 2022, not something that we can do in May when we have to file for precinct delegates of 2022. This is something that we need to do today. And so for the next 10 months, besides election reform and raising money so that we can combat the crazy Democrats in 22, this is something that we can all help take action on today. And I'm hoping that this is one of the things that can help fill the gap with so many people that I have asking me, what can I do and how can I help and where can I start? This is a great place to do that. All right, guys, so that's what I've got for tonight. Those are the nitty gritties. We kind of ran through the criteria, how you can help. And how you can help is communities of interest. This is going to be a big deal, speaking at the call to the public or the public comment meetings. And so this is how you can help. I cannot stress enough how big of an impact that this is actually going to have on the process. It does make a difference. It is going to matter. And so we need every person that is possibly willing to step up and help with this. So I will continue to share this Google Doc. If you are willing to share this video, share the link to the document. Please help us get people signed up. We need someone in every single county. So tell your family, tell your friends, anybody who hasn't been involved, but if you're sick and tired of watching Michigan get destroyed by social progressive Democrats, this is something that we can do to help make sure that that stops. All right, guys, I'm not going to be on too much longer. I hate when I'm on for an hour and a half, and I'm sure you guys don't like listening to me. If you have any other questions, put it in the comments. If not, you guys have my email, megan@meganreckling.com. You guys also have my phone number, but I'll list that there. If you guys have any questions, you can give me a call. Anytime that you want to chat or have questions, shoot me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email, and I look forward to working with you guys on all of these. Yes, Becky, we need more than 1 or 2 people at these meetings. We are hoping to send upwards of anywhere from 30 to 50 people at a minimum at each meeting. So we are talking dozens. We're not just talking 1 or 2. I mean, we are going to submit public feedback, and we're going to make sure they hear our voices on this. So yes, we're talking, and that doesn't mean per county, because again, we have 83 counties. We have 10 meetings, so they're going to be regionalized. And so, it's going to be a mix of, again, I'm hoping to have House members and Senate members and county chairs and district chairs and grassroots leaders all helping to find these individuals. But the more that we can have, because there's only 10 meetings, so they'll be regionally based, the better that will be. So, all right, guys. Have a blessed night. I hope you all are having the best week that we can. And I'm going to end as I always do. God bless America. Feel free to contact me if you guys have any questions. And I look forward to working with you guys. I'm going to hammer this issue home that we need to partake in this process. We can't let us get ran over here. So have a good night, and I will see you guys all soon. Bye.